So, hello everyone, and welcome back to STW Sports. I'm host Samuel Wright, and today I'm joined by Cambridge United fan Callum Toss, and we are going to be grading every single League One club season after 46 games. Of course, there are still the playoffs to come as well, so one other team will be getting promoted to the Championship. But we're going to focus on the 46-game season for now. We're going to go in alphabetical order and work our way up. And the team we start with first, of a team who finished slap bang in the middle of the table in 12th place, Accrington Stanley. Callum, how would you assess Accrington's season as a whole?
Mid-table, bang on mid-table for them. I think overall they've had a good season. They're not really looking danger any time. They had a quite good start. Very solid performance. I think if you finish in the top half of the league table and League One, that's a really big achievement and a very good season for them overall. But I think you look at where they probably want to be, I would say around mid-table for them is a very respectful position given the club's stature. And, they're not set getting 30,000 at home. They're only getting about 6. I think they can only hold 6,500 in their home stand. So, so it's not the biggest stadium in the world, but for them to, be overall mid-table is a very good position for them, in my opinion. So I think a C for them. I think it's a very solid performance, very solid year. So I can't really no complaints to them and really no problems they're moving forward into next season.
Yeah, I'd give them a C+. I kind of agree with a lot of stuff you're saying there, really, that I think it's been a good season for them overall. Like I say, they're not necessarily a team who probably look to the playoffs. I mean, obviously, if they got there, it'd be fantastic. And, teams have proven before it certainly can be done. I actually think Accrington have had a good season. I mean, it's like the league's kind of been split in two. The top 11, Ipswich are on 70 points. Accrington are then on 61. So it's like there's a 9-point gap between them two. So it's basically two leagues in one. And Accrington are top of maybe the lesser part of the league, which is a good achievement for them. They've never looked in any relegation trouble either. And as you say, their ground, I went there in pre-season with Bradford City, and it's a very small stadium. Well, and I think that kind of, can play into their advantage at times, really. But I do agree. I think if you offered Accrington fan 12th at the start of the season, they'd probably have taken that, to be honest. And like you say, they're a team who very much have become a mid-table League One club and done a good job of doing that. So I'd give them a C+. I think they've had a good season overall, a solid season. And yeah, I think, most Accrington fans will be quite happy with that. So a C+ for them. Unfortunately, next up, then we move on to a team whose fortunes haven't really been as good. AFC Wimbledon, relegated to League Two, only finishing on 37 points, only picked up 6 wins all season, the lowest in the division. Obviously, losing Joe Piggott in the summer wasn't ideal, but let's be honest, it's been a shocking season for Wimbledon. And yeah, they're going to be playing League Two football next season, and it's been a season to forget for them.
Yeah, but something they're not. I think they're used to kind of being a bit of a yo-yo team into League Two and League One. A few times now they've done it quite a lot, and I think with the loss of Piggott, it's definitely damaged, their scoring record. I don't think that's the whole case, like the whole problem with them. But if you take away 24 goals, I think it was 24 last year, he scored away from a team, that's going to bring your wins down a lot. And I think that's definitely played a part. But I think, their recruitment hasn't been the best. It's, it's a shame they haven't brought anyone in to replace Piggott, but all not going to reach the heights he had, sorry. But overall, it's been a very disappointing season for them. They really never seemed to get going, and always a team that was around, the bottom half, and not really looked like they're going to get out of it since December. I can only really give them an E. I think surely because of how low they've gone and how, getting relegated, it's never fun. But, I think for them, they can bounce back next year and definitely be a team in my predictions to get playoffs at least for next year into League Two and hopefully back to League One where they belong next year.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, they've been a team who've really been teetering on the edge for a couple of years, and Joe Piggott's goals have kept them in the division when you look at it like that. I think they finished 20th near enough in their previous 2 seasons, and last season, very similar as well. They kind of went towards the end of the season battling for survival. They did it. And then this season, 6 wins and 19 draws, though, the most in the division as well. And only 21 losses, which is the least in the relegation zone. But 19 draws, them draws certainly add up. And it's been just a poor season, really. And like you say, I do think they'll make a good fight of it in League Two next season. They're a club who, let's say, a little bit known as a yo-yo club, maybe between League One and Two. But I think this season's always been one to forget. They're relegated, not finished bottom, but yeah, I think it's a season that AFC Wimbledon fans won't be eager to look back on in a hurry. And yeah, I think I'd give them an E as well. I think an E is definitely a fair score there. Next, we move on to Bolton Wanderers, who, let's be honest, have been one of the teams in the league this season, I think, have finished higher than most people said, ninth place finish. It's a really good achievement considering they only came up from League Two last season. They're a club, obviously, who've had so many troubles off the field in recent years as well. 73 points they finished on. I believe it was 21 wins. That's nearly half their games, 10 draws and 15 defeats. It's been a very good season of Bolton overall, hasn't it, Callum? I think Ian Everett's probably in the running, I'd say, for manager of the season, League One as well. Yeah, very good season for Bolton.
Yeah, I think, it's really nice to see, as a fan, not linked to Bolton at all, a club that's been for a lot of financial problems at a risk of being, get out of the Football League for a lot of times and, money problems and everything like that. It's really good to see a club bouncing back from such a heavy, push. They were a championship team 5 years ago, I think it was, or something along the lines. Now they were League Two last year. Now mid-table in League One. I think it's a really good thing. And Ian have done a really good job there, and their recruitment, in my opinion, has been key for that. They've brought in a lot of players in the last 2-3 years. Okay, they've spent quite a lot because they can now, but they have really, changed the club around and put it into the better direction, in my opinion. I think for me, Bolton are a team, high-end League One, maybe low-end League Championship, at this point. I think they're showing that this year. In my opinion, if they started the season just as well as they finished the season, they could be in the playoffs. Personally, that's how I can see it. So I think as well. And finishing ninth is a very, very good feat considering where they were 2 years ago. So full credit to Bolton, and they've done a really good job there.
Yeah, I'd give Bolton a B+, I'd say. I think they've had a very, very good season. I think, again, you touched on it, Callum, they were actually a championship club, believe it or not, 3 years ago. They got relegated in 2019, which feels now like years ago if you're a Bolton fan, because they've obviously been through so much since. And let's not forget, last season, 15 months ago, they were sitting 19th in League Two. Sometimes looking like they might be dragged into a relegation battle. It's been an absolute, they could lost 6-3 to Port Vale, I remember, in one game as well at home. It's incredible, really, the turnaround. Ian Everett deserves a lot of credit, but I think the way they've come together as a club, they've lost the likes of Sarcevic and Doyle this season as well. Two big players, but they recruited pretty well in January, which I think was key. I think Bolton have had a really good season. If you said Bolton ninth at the start of the season, I think that would have been, don't think I'd have believed you. I think that would have been a bit too high for my liking, but no, they've done very well. They only actually finished, 10 points is quite a lot, but 10 points off the playoffs, only a few wins. So full credit, and I think Bolton could be a team who are right up there next season. So yeah, full credit to Bolton. I'm going to give them a B+, a very good season for Bolton. Good to see them back in a good financial stead as well. Next up, moving on to Burton Albion, a team who always really punch above their weight, but going into this season, a lot of people had them to potentially be a surprise package in the division and even maybe push for the playoffs or automatics. They started really well. It's not really gone too well since then. They finished 16th on 53 points. Been a disappointing season for Burton in that sense. But again, I think every season they stay in the division, it's a success because obviously the size of the club certainly isn't big compared to a lot in League One. But yeah, 53 points overall. I think most people would say not too bad for Burton, but probably not as high as what many were expecting at the beginning.
Yeah, I think, you look at the start and their end of the season last year as well and how well they've done. I think you go into it with a bit of optimism, and you've got to. The kind of, like the dip down in form and finish where they have. But I think overall, like you said, the size of the club has really shown that anything is possible as a size of the club, that go at a good start and you could end up anywhere. I think it makes you wonder if they didn't have that good start, would they be dragged into a relegation? Because I think that good start really did help them out a lot more than, it could have done. It could have put them into a relegation fight, sadly. But I think overall, had a good season. I'll give them a D+. I think, finishing bottom half and not the best of starts, but an overall, team that's never really worried about being relegated or anything like that. So, and, underachieving season, but a season they can definitely learn from and go again next year.
Yeah, I think I'd give Burton a C-. I think it's been a disappointing season in a sense for expectation, but at the same time, though, look, 16th, they've never been in a relegation battle. They finished 13 points clear of a drop as well, very comfortably staying up. I think next season's when I will fear for Burton. Obviously, we'll touch on next season in a couple of months, but I do think that their end's been pretty concerning. They've still got a few big wins here and there, don't get me wrong, and I think they're still a team who are capable of a big result. But overall, though, I think it's been a decent season for Burton, don't get me wrong, like as in terms of, they've not disgraced themselves, but I think at the start of the season, they were many people's tips to be in the playoffs. So to finish 16th just feels a little bit underwhelming. I'm going to give them a C-. I think Hasselbank's done a very good job overall, but if they start next season badly, I could maybe see his job being in a bit of jeopardy, but obviously we'll have to see about that. And next up, we're going to move on to none other than your club, Callum, Cambridge United. Obviously been a very good season for Cambridge overall, 14th place. I mean, we spoke a lot, Callum, on the League Two podcast last season, saying Cambridge and Morecambe would be the two teams that we're pretty much guaranteed to battle relegation. Really, we're both saying it's going to be difficult seasons for the two of them. It has been true for Morecambe, which we'll touch on later on. But Cambridge, though, I don't think there's been one stage of the season where I ever thought they're going to be dragged into relegation battle, and that's full credit to the club, really. 14th place finish, very good season overall. Some really memorable days as well, winning away at Ipswich and even in the cup against Newcastle. Yeah, what a season it's been for Cambridge. 14th place, any Cambridge fan would have taken that at the start of the season.
Yeah, I remember chatting to you end of last year on the League Two review last year and saying we need to really kind of last year. Then that kind of bit more worry going into the year. You know, you losing your top goal scorer to Wrexham. No disrespect from Wrexham, there's a big, 3 divisions down from League One. It's a big drop in my opinion, but the way we dealt with it, I think, the recruitment's been brilliant. The club have been together, and it's just been a very, very solid, comfortable season. It's been a very weird situation to be in, considering we were thinking we're going to have to be near the likes of down the bottom and kind of hope we don't get relegated on the last day. And I remember saying on Saturday when we facing that could be a 6-pointer at the start of the season when we were facing Cheltenham, and it was such a weird position to be in, thinking that could be a 6-pointer at the start of the season. So being there and thinking, well, both teams haven't had nothing to play for, but both teams are comfortable and just enjoy the day. It was such a weird feeling, but he's going to be retiring at the end of the season. But overall, it's such a wonderful season. I've got so many memories of this year as a club, and it was such a wonderful time to be back as a Cambridge fan, really. So I can't give us, I'm going to be a bit biased, but give us a C-, just because everyone predicted us being the bottom 4, and we've just achieved and overachieved, in my opinion, this year.
Yeah, I think a C- is a very harsh grade there, Colin, to be honest with you. So I've got to give an A- to Cambridge. I think for the season they've had, just the expectation alone, really, and the fact that they've never really looked out of place in the division either. I mean, don't forget, this was a club that before the pandemic were bottom end of League Two. I mean, they were around about 19th, 20th in League Two. Never really looked like, last season was going to do anything. Obviously, they did really well last season, got promoted. But the big question was, will they be able to continue the momentum? Because just dropped off at the end of last season as well in League Two and had a few sloppy results, which stops you winning the league. So I think Cambridge, have done very, very well this season, 14th place. And I think most Cambridge fans would have absolutely taken that at the start of the season. So, yeah, I think it's a very good achievement for Cambridge. And obviously, I think the A- for them, one of the success stories in the league this season. I'd say a very, very good season. And next up, we move on to a team who've not had so good fortunes this season, Charlton Athletic, finishing 13th, 1 place above Cambridge. 59 points, 17 wins, 8 draws, 21 losses. They're very disappointing that for Charlton. Obviously had Nigel Adkins at the start, never really worked out for him. Obviously then they got in Johnny Jackson, of course, a cult hero at the club. I mean, to be honest, it's been a bit of a write-off season for Charlton. They have started so badly as well. Yeah, it's been a pretty much season to forget for Charlton. Never looked like touching the playoffs, never looked like they were going down. It's been a season of pure mid-table mediocrity.
Yeah, but I think, considering where they started and changing the manager so early on was a big risk, in my opinion. They, dealt with that really well. I think, bouncing back and, having some pretty good performances here and there. Okay, they lost to Ipswich heavily on the last day of the season, but you look at the season as a whole, it is I think by then it was a write-off season for them. And, you go again next year and a team that will be looking upwards. I think, they've got to the Charlton fan. They've predicted in the playoffs this year and they've had a different season. They have that, but they've never looked like they're going to be relegated since the new manager's come in. But I think overall, it's a season to forget, and it's just a season where they're just, I think, happy. Nothing bad happened considering the bad form. I'm going to give them a D, just purely because of, they're done well in the second half of the season, but first half has really hindered them overall. But it's an average season at best. But I would be disappointed if I was a Charlton fan going into the play, not being in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'd give them a D-. I'd probably say, like you say, I mean, I'm not saying they have a God-given right to be up there, Charlton, but I think at the start of the season, people did look at the fact they've got a manager like Nigel Adkins, who obviously has got experience getting out of this division, most notably, of course, with Southampton, where he got back-to-back promotions, took them up to the Premier League. But yeah, I think it's been a disappointing season for Charlton, though, overall. I think there've certainly been bright spots in the season, as you say. It was a real risk getting rid of their manager so early on. So I agree with that. But I think overall, though, it's been a season to forget for them. But I think next season, although they are one of my tips to be very much higher in the league. So yeah, 13th place, I'll give them a D-. But obviously next season, I'm expecting much better and interested to see how Johnny Jackson does with a full season behind him. And next up, we move on to a team who obviously were promoted alongside Cambridge last season, Cheltenham Town. Obviously a team who won League Two last season. I think we both said them and Bolton would surely be all right in League One. I mean, they play some good football. Cheltenham, they're a good side. 15th place finish again. Never really looked in trouble of a relegation battle. They've competed really well in the division throughout the season, I'd say. Yeah, it's been a good season for Cheltenham, I'd say, overall. 15th place, I think they'd definitely be happy with that.
Yeah, I think, as a Cambridge fan as well, like I mentioned, going into the last day of the season, chatting to a few of their fans, it was just nice to not be in that position for them. Alfie May was scoring bags of goals. I think he's on 25 goals and top 4 goal scorer this year. And he's done very well coming into League One. And overall, a very solid season, no complaints. Never really looked like they're going to be in any relegation fight. And just a very average season, but that's what you want in your first league back in League One. And it's all if they can replicate for next year. Something, we need to look for a Cambridge fan as well, not to have second season syndrome where we get kind of too big and go slip down the league. That could be a crucial thing for us. But, I think both teams are going to be okay. And looking at, teams that have been promoted, we need to just make sure we stay, and they need to make sure they stay in the division. I think they're going to be always the main objective for Cheltenham. But I think a D+, I think it's a very good season for them. A team that had probably a bit more expectations than Cambridge, but a team that's still been very comfortable in League One.
Yeah, I think I'd give Cheltenham a B, to be honest. I think they've had a really good season overall. I mean, obviously, like you say, I think your first season in League One, you want it to be steady. I think, obviously, you've just been promoted, obviously, as champions, but that doesn't really ever mean a lot. I mean, just because you're promoted as champions doesn't guarantee, of course, that you can do really well in the league above. And I think Cheltenham have come up and they've done really well, I think. I think they've had a steady season. 56 points they've ended on. I think they certainly have taken that. The start never in it. They're 16 points above relegation. Never looked in trouble of going down. I think next season, Cheltenham are a team who could definitely suffer. And as Alfie May's been bagging the goals for them. Without his goals, I think they'd definitely been in a battle. But at the end of the day, they've kept their head above water all season and done really well. I'd give them a B. I think it's been a good season for Cheltenham, all things considered, especially coming up a division. And I think they've coped really well with it. So, yeah, fair play to Cheltenham. It's so good to see, like I say, Cambridge and Cheltenham's final game, which could have been a 6-pointer, just being a bit of one of the few nothing games in League One that we had on the final day of the season, really. So that must have been nice for both fans, of course, who came up together from League Two last season. But well, when we speak about second season syndrome in League One, though, look no further than Crewe Alexandra. I mean, don't forget, this is a club who did very well last season in their first season back in League One when they actually finished mid-table, did really well, had a fantastic home record. This season, absolutely the opposite. 7 wins all season, 31 defeats, which is awful. The most in the division by quite some way. Well, 3 more than Doncaster, but after that by quite some way. Yeah, terrible season for Crewe. 29 points, bottom of the league, relegated to League Two. Yeah, one that I don't think Crewe fans will want to look back on with any joy.
No, I'm sorry, Crewe fans, to have to bring it up, but I'll give them an F. I can't see any positives from this year. Sadly, they were relegated, I think, a month ago. I think it was about a month. I could be wrong on that, but it was such a very early relegation for them, and it really never got going this year. It's a shame. I'm not 100% sure why. It just didn't seem to work this year, and hopefully, I'm sure they've done it at League Two before, and I'm sure they'll do it again overall, but it's just not been the best season for them, and definitely a season they want to forget and move on and hopefully progress next year. So, it's a sad thing always to see teams get relegated, and especially with 4 teams going down, but I have faith they'll come back up in the next few years stronger and hopefully solidify themselves as a League One club.
Yeah, I think I was surprised Crewe done so badly. They weren't really in my tips to be in the relegation battle this season. I thought they'd be solid in mid-table, kind of in a similar position to where Cheltenham and Cambridge finished, really. But no, it's been a really poor season for one reason or another. It's not really worked out, and they've just not managed to do anything this season. 29 points, a very low tally. And yeah, it's got to be said, they've gone down, and they've gone down in a very, very bad way. And like I said, they were relegated a good few weeks ago now as well. So not convincing. It's an F from me as well. It's unfortunate. Hopefully, Crewe, of course, can recover in League Two, but they have got experience getting out of League Two before, so I'm sure they'll certainly be in the battle next season, providing they have a steady summer. And it doesn't really get much better in terms of teams we're talking about, because next up we've got Doncaster, who obviously also got relegated. 22nd finished overall. It's one of them, really. Doncaster ended last season so badly. I mean, soon as Darren Moore left, I believe it was last season, it was a downward spiral ever since. They finished 14th. They went from playoff battling to finishing mid-table. And this season, it's just the form just never picked up. Richie Wellens came in, didn't really do much there. And then, of course, they've brought in a new manager, and it's just continued to get even worse. And 38 points. I guess they've finished above the bottom two, but still for Doncaster, season to forget.
Oh, fully, yeah. And, it's weird. They've had a few good results the last few weeks, which has been a really weird situation for them. But just like Crewe, never really got going. It seemed to never talk since Christmas. They're going to be definitely in a relegation fight, and overall for them, it's a shame, but it's something I think Doncaster fans have been preparing for the last few weeks, and sadly, it's been drawn out to the last day of the season because of 14 goal difference. It's a bit of a sad thing. I think they probably just wanted to get it over and done with and move on. They've got a few results and not finished bottom, which is always a positive for them. But I think overall, not the best season, as a season to forget for Doncaster and Crewe.
Yeah, no, I certainly agree. I think Doncaster, obviously, it's season to forget for them. 10 wins all season, the most in the relegation battle, but still certainly nothing to shout about. 28 losses, which is absolutely awful as well. I think you've got to give an F to Doncaster. I think that's the only fair one, to be honest with you. But I think they're a team who certainly will give it a good go in League One, so League Two, sorry. So yeah, I do think that they will be a team who might well be up there. But yeah, it's been a very poor season for Doncaster, and one that again they will not look back on with any fondness. And now we're going to move on to Fleetwood Town, a team who just survived by the skin of their teeth on the final day. I was at their game on the final day of the season as well against Bolton. In fairness to Fleetwood, I mean, they've stayed up, which is what, at the end of the day, their aim was. And this was a club who were in the playoffs in this division just 2 years ago, though. So when you look at it like that, it doesn't look good. But they have gone through quite a bit, losing a manager or two. Obviously, they had Simon Grayson, I believe, at the start of the season. Didn't work out for him. They've got another manager in now. And yeah, 40 points. They've stayed up on goal difference ahead of Gillingham. That's all you can say. They've stayed up, and that's the end of the day what they've done. So maybe something for them to. They obviously will be playing League One football next season. Now it's up to them to build on it.
Yeah, I think fair play for staying up. That's all. I think certain clubs are looking to do, and they've done that. And next year's a different year. I think for Fleetwood, chatting to quite a few Fleetwood fans and having one of a podcast during the week. Very bad season for them, but had optimism going into next season. I think it's more just a one season blip, and it could be, but then also they need to make sure it's not a continuous thing to be near the relegation, because eventually their time will end up being relegated into League Two. Is it Fleetwood a team notorious for Jamie Vardy and have been gone from non-league into League One and everything like that, but they're a team that can progress into the Championship in my opinion, with the right coaching, the right players come through. It's just going to take time, and I think staying in League One's a big step into that future for Fleetwood. So I can't really give them more than D-. I think for me personally, just because they stayed up. I think it's not been the best season, but League One football's a big thing for them, and that'll bring some more money into the club.
Yeah, I'd give them an E. I think Fleetwood, I mean, I can't really give them any higher than that. The fact they were in a relegation battle, only won 8 games all season. It's not, of course, been a good season by any means for Fleetwood, but they've stayed up at the end of the day, which is the end of the day. What they've And that's what they've done. They've stayed up, which is what they were, of course, what they had to do in that sort of position. And yeah, fair play to them. I'd give them an E, though. I think it's not been a great season by any means, and we'll have to see if they can maybe build up and go up the table next season. But yeah, they've stayed up. That's all you can really say. And just staying at the bottom end of the table, the final team who were relegated this season, Gillingham. I think a lot of people surprised with Gillingham getting relegated. I mean, they were a team last season who seemed pretty good under Steve Evans, really. I think they finished mid-table. Very solid season. This season, though, relegated. Neil Harris took over, and it looked like they were hitting a good run of form and they were going to stay up. Didn't happen, unfortunately. They finished bottom. They finished 21st, in the relegation zone by 1 place. Missed out by staying up on goal difference, and yeah, Gillingham were relegated.
Yeah, it's like I said earlier, it's never nice to team getting relegated, and especially it comes down to goal difference. Not scoring enough goals, then he sent you down in a way, and you look back on the results and think, we could have got a point there, and that would have kept us up. We could have got a win there, and so on and so on. But overall, a season to forget. I do believe them one of my picks to win the title for next year in League Two already, just because of the stature of the club. And I think for them coming down, it's going to be a very, a situation where they want to get out of as quick as possible. And I can see them doing that. But it's taking 1 step back, and hopefully they can take 2 steps forward next year in the season after to keep going. But it's a shame because they're obviously, they're a League One club for a while, and it's never nice to see a team relegated. So I think, a D, I'll give them an E. I think nothing more I can't really give because of the relegation status, but a team that I can predict to come straight back up next year.
Yeah, I agree, especially if they keep Neil Harris. I think they'll be definitely one of the favourites in the division anyway. Yeah, I think that an E I'm going to go for in this one. They've been relegation. Can't really give them any higher than that, the fact they have gone down. But like you say, I think they will definitely be one of the favourites going into League Two next season. But obviously that's next season, and this season, it's just been a really bad season for them, of course, as well. Neil has had a lot of strong words to say on the final day as well after the defeat. So interesting what sort of state they'll be in the summer, if his words are anything to go by. But yeah, it's been a season to forget for Gillingham, of course, and unfortunately they have been relegated. So that's one of them for them. We'll have to see if they can bounce back next season, but I can't give them any higher than an E. And now we will move up the table all the way up to 11th, Ipswich Town, one of the teams who were tipped, you'd say, to be right up there this season. I think if you offered an Ipswich fan 11th at the start of the season, they absolutely would not have taken it. But I think, obviously, when you look at how the season's gone overall, a very encouraging end under McKenna to the season. So maybe not the season they wanted, but something that's taken to next season.
Yeah, I think, the start they had wasn't the best at all, and a really poor start for them. But, the team is such a big club in a way, and, a team that very big stature that have improved through the year, and their new manager coming, in my opinion, has done really well. And if they had him earlier, I can see them getting the playoffs, or definitely close to the playoffs than they are. But overall, good season, just saying about the start, but a team that probably would want to be in the playoffs, maybe higher at the start. But you look at some of the teams in this division at the moment, it's a very hard division to get into the playoffs, and especially automatics. It's not easy at all, but, something to move and look forward to for next year for them. And they're losing a few players, but I think they're going to keep on improving. I can definitely pick them to be in the playoffs next year, and a team that I'm sure won't go down without defeat next year. So, and overall, I'll give them a C. I think a quite a good, solid performance considering the start they had at the start of the season.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd give them a C minus. The minus mainly becoming because, of course, they did expect to be staying up at the start of to be in the playoffs at the start of the season at least. So, I think this for Ipswich, it's not been a good season, all things considered. But with the start they had and the fact they just never really got going in the early stages of the season, I'd definitely say they've recovered it well, and they've finished in a pretty strong position overall. And they've only actually finished, I believe it was actually 13 points a long way off the playoffs in truth, but somewhat to build on. They've had a good end that they can build on for next season, and obviously that final day of the season 4-0 win over Charlton kind of summed it up really, that they have come a long way throughout the season. And I think next season they are one of my tips to be right up there, and hope even maybe automatics, but automatics playoffs, it's going to be a very strong league next season, I think. So and Ipswich, I think, will very much be one of the teams who are up there. And next up we move on to Lincoln City. I mean, when you think about last season, obviously with Lincoln, Let's be honest, they got to the playoff final. They finished 17th this season. It's nowhere near been as good, and they've had a real fall down the table. Lincoln have obviously come a very long way as a club. I think this is the first season for a while Lincoln haven't been involved in any sort of promotion battle or maybe even relegation battle. So it's the first time in a while they've had a season of, being mid-table. I think the drop-off's obviously been quite substantial, but overall, I think Lincoln fans, they'll probably just be hoping they can build on it for next season, maybe. And but overall, it's not been really a season to remember for Lincoln.
Yeah, but a solid team. I think for me personally, no different. I think they've been overachieving the last couple of years with continuous promotions or playoffs and everything. I think it's been a very average season for them, but I think a season they can learn from and move on for next year. It's a team that are overachieving, in my opinion, a bit like some of the teams in League One, but a team that have definitely come a long way in the last few. I think the most promoted team in the last 5 years or something like that. I read it's been a very good time for them and their fans, and they can definitely bounce back next year and move higher up the table. I can't see why not. I'm going to give them a C, just a solid performance for the year. Never really been in a relegation battle, but never looked like they're going to threaten the top half of the table. I think just a solid season, a bit like the teams around them this year.
Yeah, I'd go with a C as well, actually. I actually perfectly agree with you there. I think a C is about fair. I think Lincoln have very much been overachieving in the last few years. The fact they very nearly went up to the championship last season was pretty much a fairy tale for how far Lincoln have obviously come. And obviously speaking to their fans last season at the end when I was at Wembley, they were saying how far they've come as a club. Really, it's absolutely staggering. And I think a season like this, in some ways, mightn't actually hurt them too much, finishing 17th. Obviously, they'd like to have been up there again. Interested to see if they can build on it for next season, maybe, and try and push higher up the table. But I think they've stayed up comfortably, never looked at any relegation trouble, but they've always been around the same position all season. I'd give them a C. Certainly not been great, but, I think, realistically for Lincoln, mid-table in League One, their fans won't mind that, I don't think, for now anyway. So, I'd give them a solid C as well. Now we're going to move on to one of the teams in the playoffs, very nearly was automatics, MK Dons. I think when you speak about overachieving teams this season, well, MK Dons, I don't think many people had them third at the start of the season, so they've had a very good season overall. And one of the success stories, very nearly automatic promotions, just missed out on that on the final day. But it's been a great season for MK Dons, no matter what, 89 points, third place finish, and the playoffs to deal with now. Yeah, it's been a good season.
Yeah, I think, they've had a very, very good season. There's no doubt about it. One of the success stories of the year, and really a team that are overachieving. I can't see them winning the playoffs, sadly. But have got a very good young team and some very good young players as well that I've seen, and a good manager and a nice big stadium to go along with it. Okay, the fan base is still growing, but they've only been around for, I think it's the 20 years this year. They've only been around as a football club. I think it was like 2002 or something they got founded. And it's such a big, massive thing for them to go into the playoffs in League One. I think fair play to them and fair play to the club as a whole. I'm going to give them a B+. I think you can't really give them anything less than that, purely because of how well they've done as a club. And finishing third, and especially in this league with a lot of big teams, is nothing shy of really good and remarkable, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd give them an A. I'd give MK. I think MK Dons have been probably the success story in the league in terms of expectation. You look at other teams who got promoted automatically and in the playoffs, you'd probably have predicted that at the start of the season, and not everyone would have agreed. But I don't think anyone had MK Dons in that conversation to finish third on 89 points. They've had a fantastic season. They play some really good football as well. I think MK Dons have been brilliant. I'd give them an A. I think they've arguably been one of probably this most surprised team in the league all season. So, yeah, they've been brilliant. And, obviously the playoffs now, we'll touch on the playoffs a little bit later, of course, Callum, but, there's a chance for them to go up, and obviously they're competing against some really big clubs as well in Sheffield Wednesday and Sunderland. So we'll see what they can do in that sense. But yeah, momentum. They won 5-0 on the final day, of course, against a good Plymouth side as well. But you wouldn't really say momentum's overly on their side. They're in good form, but I think there's other teams who are in just as good form in the playoffs. But yeah, I think it's been a great season for MK Dons. I'd give them an A. I think they've been very good. Play some great stuff as well. Scott Twine in the middle of the park, what a player he's been this season. So yeah, I think they've been very good. MK Dons, I'd definitely give them an A. Now we move on to the other end of the table again. We're going to go with Morecambe now. In fairness, if you said to a Morecambe fan at the start of the season you're going to stay up, they definitely have taken that. I think they were most people's tip to finish bottom. I think they were most people's tip to not really be able to go, especially when we lost Derek Adams, the man who got them promoted. But yeah, they've stayed up by 2 points. Morecambe, they've done enough, and you've got to say that counts as success for them.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think, they were a surprise going up from League Two last year, and coming into League One, you really fear that they're going to, be a team that's hardly going to get any wins and really kind of be down by Christmas. A lot of people were saying, they'll be down and out by then and not really achieve anything. They've proven that, they can stay up and can fight. I do worry for next season for them, purely because you see some teams have a really good, any team can go down, but I am worried for Morecambe next year. But I think, they've proven they can not go down without a fight, and I think they'll do that again next year. But I don't know if it'll be too much for them this year. I think Cole Stockton's really been their saviour in a way this year with the amount of goals he scored, a bit like how he made for Cheltenham. But overall, really good, solid season, and something, I'm going to give them a B, purely because everyone predicts them to finish bottom and no have a chance in hell, really. And they're proven that they can stay up and stay up, not just outside the relegation. So I'm really impressed by them this year, and good luck to them for next year.
Yeah, I think I'd give them a B minus. I think the minus mainly comes because they've stayed up. It's a very good achievement, but I do also think they've been helped especially in the last stage of the season, by teams below them just not picking up wins. I mean, I know you can say the same about every relegation battle in a way, but I do feel like, yes, Morecambe have done well. 10 wins all season, though 24 losses. It's still not great, but then again, they've stayed up, and that's all you can really ask for at the end of the day. If you're a Morecambe fan, the aim at the same start of the season was to stay in the division. They've absolutely done that. I do agree with you that next season, they could go down quite comfortably, but obviously we'll have to see about that, I guess. But I think overall Morecambe will be very happy with the season they've had. They've stayed up. Derek Adams has come back in as well. Their manager obviously went to Scotland. Adams came back in, and he's kept him up at the end of the day. So that's all that matters. So interesting one there. And yeah, Morecambe, fair play to them. And like you say, all the best to them for next season as well. Next we move on to Oxford United, a team who usually around the playoff picture, not this season, though. They finished 8th overall on 76 points. Obviously, Oxford, a team who've reached the playoffs, the final in 2020, the semi-final in 21, fallen a bit short this year. But overall, though, still think it's been a good season for Oxford, though. 76 points they ended on, 22 wins all season, 10 draws, 14 losses. I think it's been a good season for Oxford overall.
Yeah, I think a very solid season. I think, if you chat to any Oxford fan, a team that would going to be around the playoffs, and there's nothing to be shy of, just missing out by 2 spaces in the end. And it's something that they can definitely, progress into next season with confidence that they can get playoffs again. They're always going to be a good team, Oxford, especially with a good, quite a young team still as well, and some promising players. It's been a very, solid season for them overall, with nothing really to be worried about. I think as an Oxford fan, you think, okay, it was a shame we didn't get playoffs, but still a very good season with some very good wins in there overall. I'm going to give them a B, purely because they didn't get to the playoffs, but I think they're very very comfortable, and so almost done it at some points. They were in the playoff picture and all season, so fair play to them. And I'm sure next season they will definitely be around that point again.
Yeah, I think I'd give them a C probably. I think the only reason I'd drop them a bit lower is because they have obviously dropped off in the last couple of seasons. I think when you look at the fact they got playoffs twice and then they didn't get it this season, I think that is they've obviously decreased a little bit. But I think, to be fair though, they've still had a good season. They were around the playoffs as many people predicted. Didn't quite get there in the end, but it's been a good season again for Oxford. And I think there's another next season. I'll probably tip them to do roughly the same, to be fair, be right up there again. So not a bad season overall, but I think that again, just the fact they've got the playoffs, I think probably consider it a little bit of a drop off. And next up though, we move on to another team who just missed out on the playoffs, Plymouth Argyle. Obviously must have been pretty heartbreaking for Plymouth because they were doing so well. This was a team who only got promoted 2 seasons ago from League Two. So they've done very well. And you've got to ask the question, if Ryan Lowe had stayed, would they have, they were top under Ryan Lowe, let's not forget as well. You've got to ask, if Ryan Lowe had stayed, would they have done it? But unfortunately, of course, left to go Preston. 7th place finish, 3 points off 6th. Obviously, Wickham pipped them on the final day. Yeah, I think with the position they were in, Plymouth were disappointed. But overall, I guess if you offered them 7th, they'd definitely have taken that.
Yeah, I think it's a shame because I understand why the manager left, but they were in such good form going into the time where he left, and they went on a really bad run went after he left and didn't seem to get a win. I think for 4 games or something like that. I think that's hindered them this year. Is the change in managerial, and it was, and the 5-0 loss at the end of the season. You could argue, so I think they would still be happy. But considering where they were at the start, it was something I think they would want to do better at, just because of how well they were doing. I'm gonna give them a C. I think a very good, solid season for them overall, but a season where they would be a bit disappointed not to get to the playoffs at least. I think for them personally.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that if you said to me at the start of the season, Plymouth are going to finish 7th, I'd have said, wow, what a season. I'd probably give them an A or something. But because of the way it's happened and the fact they were top at one point and they've fallen off so much, and with the position they were in, it's pretty bad they've not made the playoffs. So I'd give them a B, just because I think it'd be harsh to give them any lower than that. But I think that, 7th, obviously, and the way they've fallen off is just disappointing, really. And I think they'll be disappointed that they haven't at least made the playoffs with the fact they were doing so well. But I think if Ryan Lowe had stayed, it could have been a different story. But he didn't, of course, and they finished just outside the playoffs. Very disappointing for them overall. And next up, we're going to speak about Portsmouth, who ended up finishing 10th in the league. A very familiar story, I guess you could say, for Portsmouth. They always seem to be that team at the moment who, are always pushing for the playoffs, but never quite make it. It's another story this season. Finished 10th, and 73 points. A bit disappointing, I guess, if you're a Portsmouth fan.
Yeah, I think overall it's not a bad season for them, but it's another season in League One where I think they would want to push on. Not had the playoffs for a few years now, and I think overall they would want the playoffs. In to get to the semi-finals of playoffs, it's something that it's a tough one because Portsmouth has got such a big club. They won the FA Cup only just under over 10 years ago, and it's such a shame to see a club like this down there. But I think overall, you are where you are for a reason. But a team that can definitely push on, and they haven't for the last few years. So it's a familiar sight, like you said, for them to be in this position. But overall, something I think they can push on for next year. Time will tell. But I'll give them a D plus. I think a big team like that would want to be around in the playoffs, and never really looked like they're going to be this year. So it's been an average season for them, a bit like they have been the last few years.
Yeah, I think I'd give them a D, to be fair, just because I just think as well it's another season in League One. That's the main bit you touch on there. And they're a club who I think they just want to maybe make progress. They're usually around the playoff picture. Last season they fell out on the final day, if I remember correctly. Oxford it was who beat them to it. And I just think it's disappointing if you're a Portsmouth fan, the fact that 73 points, 10 points off the playoffs as well. They've never really looked like getting there all season. It's just been a bit of a mediocre season for them, I guess you can say. And I think, I'd give them a D, to be fair. I think if as a Portsmouth fan, I wouldn't really be too happy with how the season's gone. They've not really much progress made. If anything, they've gone backwards a little bit. So disappointing for Portsmouth, and obviously they'll have to give their best attempts at trying to go up again next season. And next up, we're going to speak about one club who have been promoted this season, Rotherham United, obviously. Very much known as a yo-yo club between Championship and League One. And that's been the case again this season. They obviously had a great mid-season run, ended on 90 points, just about got over the line, and they won the Papa John's Trophy as well. But let's not forget as well, they were struggling a little bit. They just kind of crawled over the line more than anything because they were losing a little bit of form, don't forget. But they got there, Rotherham promoted to the Championship once again.
Yeah, I think, they've been a team that's been up there all year. They've had a little dip of form in the last few weeks, but a team that's, very impressed me this year, and they could have won the title if Wigan lost that on the last day of the season. There's something they could have still done. It's been a very good season for them. I'm going to give them an A plus. I think, you can't really give them anything less than a promoted team that, and done it quite comfortably. They've only just got over it, but a team have been up there all year, and I've been very impressed with them, seeing them both times play this year. And a team I think, would want to stay in the Championship for a few years now and just kind of keep growing. But hopefully they're not bound down in League One next year, but a very, very good season for them overall.
Yeah, I'd give them an A. I think, like say, promoted club, it's hard to give them any less than that. I mean, I know they're known as a bit of a yo-yo club. I think this season to win the Papa Johns as well as get promoted, it's been a very, very good season. Never seems to be a dull season at Rotherham. They're always promoted, relegated, it seems. So another entertaining one again. Yeah, 90 points, been a very good season, 27 wins. I think Rotherham, again, they've had a terrific campaign and they're promoted again, and that's all that matters. And their aim now, of course, is to try and stay in the Championship, but that's an argument for next season. But yeah, they've gone up again automatically. Fair play to them, a very good achievement. And yeah, they've played some really good football. I've been really impressed when I've watched them. And yeah, I think fair play to them. And next up, Sheffield Wednesday, another club in the playoffs. And they, of course, finished fourth. A club who never started all that well this season. They took a while to get going, but once they got going, they've been very, very good. Finished on 85 points, just 5 points off the automatics. Overall, considering the position they were in financially and their troubles last season off the pitch, you've got to say it's been a good season for Sheffield Wednesday. And yeah, obviously now over to the playoffs to see if they can get promoted there. But overall, though, yeah, Sheffield Wednesday playoffs, not too bad at all.
Yeah, I've said it a few times now on numerous things that, in my opinion, Sheffield Wednesday are the best team I've seen play this year. And I know that's quite a big statement, but I'm not. We did get beat 6-0 at Highbury this year, and that was a day to forget as a Cambridge fan. But they blew us off the park, and it really was such a wonderful team performance by them. You can only applaud it, and it shows the difference in class overall in certain teams in League One. But they've got some brilliant players, a very, very good manager and a brilliant fan base as well. I can only applaud them for this year, and a team that I think would do well back in the Championship after a few bad seasons. But in my opinion, a Championship team. They're a team that I can definitely see doing well. Can win that, and who knows where they can end up in a few years' time. But it's good just to see a team after financial trouble go back into the playoff picture and have some success again. So I think I'll give them a B plus just because of the bad start, and then a very good playoff run. Promotion push at the end.
Yeah, I'd give them a B plus as well. I totally agree with you there. I think that they are a team I think many people would have tipped for the playoffs or automatics at the start of the season. With the start they had, though, I think people were losing a bit of faith, to be honest, that they were even going to do that. So I think, all things considered, it's been a good season for them. I think, they're in the playoffs. There is good momentum in the playoffs as well. Obviously, we'll touch on in a moment how we think they'll do in the playoffs. But yeah, I actually think that Wednesday have had a pretty good season overall. I think playoffs isn't too bad. And yeah, I think they're definitely one of the favourites to go up as well at the moment. So yeah, I'd give them a B plus as well. Been a decent season overall. Looking to bounce back, of course, to the Championship at the first attempt. And next up, we're going to talk about Shrewsbury Town, just going down the table ever so slightly. 18th place finish. Again, Shrewsbury always seem to finish around that spot. They always seem to finish around just above relegation without really being in the battle too much. They're always a difficult one to assess, Shrewsbury. They never really seem to be dead in the relegation battle, but they never really seem to go higher than around about 15th to 18th. So another light season for that. And in the end, yeah, 18th place. What do you make of it?
Another good, solid performance. Like a solid season again in League One. A team that, like you said, no one really predicted to kind of do anything but stay up and finish around that place. I think, if you said to Shrewsbury, you'll finish up where you did pretty much again last year, they would take that. There's not really much I can say about that. It's a solid season. They look like a good team and a good League One side that can cause a few upsets, but nothing really special about it. They stayed up. That's the main thing. I'm going to give them a C. Sort of average season and average performance, I think, overall for them this year. And yeah, I think for them, they would want to improve on it. But, I think always the old you want to have done that again.
Yeah, no, I think I'd probably agree with you there. I think a C is fair for Shrewsbury. I think that, it's been another solid season without them doing anything spectacular, I guess you can say. And I think, again, every season they do stay up seems to be a bit of a success for them, really. And they've done it again overall. And fair play to them. They've made quite comfortable work of it as well. So yeah, fair play to them. Not really much else to say about Shrewsbury. They've had a solid enough season. They've stayed up comfortably. So yeah, fair play to them in that sense. They've actually finished 10 points above relegation. So they'll absolutely have taken that. And next up, we're going to move on to another team who are in the playoffs, Sunderland. I mean, Amazed to think Sunderland, this is actually their fourth season now in League One. They've been in the playoffs two of the previous three. They've never made, there was obviously the final in the first year, semi-final last season, they were beaten by Lincoln. Sunderland have got to get out of this league sooner or later. Every season they stay in this division, Sunderland, you just feel like they're going to lose that little bit of maybe credibility. And I think that, again, it's just been a season where they've not really knocked on the door for automatics, but they've done enough to get in the playoffs, and it's a big playoffs ahead for them as well. But fifth place, how do you assess that overall?
I think a season that they needed to get playoffs, there was a point where they wasn't going to get that. I think they've done really well to the end of the season and got a lot of momentum going into the playoffs. But it's a team, again, that's going to, we'll touch on the playoffs in a bit. I don't want to touch on it right now, but a team that could really struggle going into the playoffs. And I do worry for Sunderland fans that it could be another season in League One again. And you don't want that as a Sunderland fan, such a big club with such really good history, but a team that I don't really know what's happened to them. They keep, they've got some good young players, and I think another year in League One, it might damage their reputation a little bit, but it might do them a lot of good. And next year they come out the gates storming, depending what happens in the playoffs. But I think overall, it's been a good season for them, and I think the season they needed to get playoffs and progress into the end of the season, see what happens. But I don't think it's going to be the end of the world if they stay another year in League One. I think I'm going to give them a B, a very good season for the playoffs, but I do worry going into the playoffs for them.
I think I'm going to give them a C, mainly because fifth place isn't the most convincing. That's my only argument. And I think that they've kind of crawled over the line into the playoffs as well. I never agreed with the sacking of Lee Johnson at the start of the season. I know obviously they got beat 6-0, I believe it was, by Bolton. A pretty humiliating result, yes, but I think that was still a little bit harsh. Alex Neil's a very good manager for this level, don't get me wrong, and I think he is the right man for Sunderland to take over a club like this who do need some maybe stability coming in. But I still think it's not been a great season. They've done enough to get playoffs, but it all depends on if they win the playoffs. Obviously, my grade will go up a little bit, but it all depends on if they win the playoffs or not. But yeah, I don't think it's been the most convincing season overall for Sunderland at the same time. And next up, we move on to Wigan Athletic, the champions of League One. A bit like Rotherham, they're kind of known as a bit of a yo-yo club, I guess you can say, between Championship and League One. But Wigan, very good season, to be honest with you. The takeover, obviously, last season really boosted spirits around the entire club. It's been a great season for Wigan. It's got to be said. 92 points, champions, and yes, it's been a great season for Wigan overall.
Yeah, I think it's been, winning as hard. You can't really argue with that at all. I will say that I might turn people the wrong cheek. I'm probably sticking my neck up for saying this. A team that, when I know we took quite a few points, Cambridge took 4 points off them this year, so I'm in quite a good place to say this, but a team I wasn't that impressed with seeing play. You watch them play, and we beat them on away and everything. But overall, a team that have done well, but I've not played the best football. But that's nothing, fair play to them. I just want to touch a team that I think have been quite fortunate with some results, but they've got the job done. They've finished top of the table. Congratulations to them. I'm gonna give them an A. I can't really, it's a season where I think they were finishing so low the last year, going into and winning the title, I think shows how good the takeover has been for them and how good the future is for them. But I think overall, a season where they can definitely improve going into the championship. I do worry for them going into the championship again, but fair play to them for winning the League One title, and good luck to them in the championship.
Yeah, I give them an A. I think, again, an A is probably about fair. They've done very well. They were a lot of people's tips to be up there at the start of the season. It's not really a surprise they've won the division, in my opinion. I think that they were one of the teams at the start of the season I looked at and thought, yeah, they could win the league. They've been up there all season. They started the season really well. So, yeah, I think that they've been brilliant, to be fair to Wigan. And again, like you say, maybe when you've watched them play at times have not been the best, but I do think it's been a very, very good season. And yeah, I think can't argue with it. And like you said, they've got to try and take this momentum of winning the league into the championship and see if they can stay up there. And final team we're going to touch on, another team who've made the playoffs just on the final day, Wycombe Wanderers. Obviously, going into the new season, I had really high hopes for Wycombe. I mean, obviously, they ended last season really well. They went down, but they ended last season really well, as in if the championship season went on for another week or two, they probably would have stayed up because they were winning that many games. And, they've done well this season, 83 points. They've got the playoffs. That's the most important thing. They're going to have another crack at going up. Yeah, I think overall you could probably say Wycombe have had a successful season. If they go up, obviously, even more so.
Yeah, I've got quite a soft spot for Wycombe purely because of the manager, the small club, and it's such a nice story to see them in the Championship last year. And they're a team that no one really predicts to do that well, and they always prove against the odds. Okay, they came down last year, but like you said, went down to the last game of the season, and overall, a team that I quite enjoy watching as a club. I quite enjoy what Derek Adams has done. Gareth Ainsworth's done there, and I think overall a team that can do well in the playoffs. But I think I'm going to give them a B plus. They've got players which was quite, in my opinion, a bit of a question mark if they're going to redo what they did the year before and get playoffs. But I think they've done that really well. And they were a League Two team 4 years ago, I think 3 or 4 years ago now, and they've done such a well to get into the position they are as a club.
Yeah, I'd give Wycombe I'd give them a B plus, to be honest. I think, like you say, yes, they came down last season, but not many people really had them in the conversation, surprisingly, to go for the playoffs or automatics. And I was one of the people who said they would probably be up there, and they have been. They've got the playoffs. And the one thing I think Wycombe will be able to prove is their only season in the Championship, they never got to play in front of fans. So imagine, obviously, Wycombe, of course, in the Championship with fans, that could certainly be a different story. So, and I think they lost the first 7 games in the Championship last season as well. And many people were saying they could be down by March time. So they made a real good fight of it. And again, this season they've done well. They've got the playoffs in the end. So full credit to them. So yeah, that's all the 24 teams have now graded the season as a whole. Now, Callum, it's time for our player and manager of the season before we predict the playoffs, who if it's going to win that. So who are you saying, Callum, for player and manager of the year?
A manager, I don't want to be biased. I think Mark Bonner's up there as a manager of the season, but I'm not going to give it to him purely because of, how much I like him, how much he's done well as a manager. I think I'm debating between two. I think overall Gareth Ainsworth's up there purely because of what he's done at Wycombe over the last, I think, God knows how many years, and he's done brilliantly there, and where he's got them as a club, and he loves the club as well. And I think overall, I'm going to have to say I'm going to say Darryl Moore from Sheffield. That's quite a big, bold start to get them into the position where he's kind of guided them through League One from a tough period and really took them into the playoffs and could have got automatics as well. I think a very, very solid, consistent manager this year. So he's going to be my manager of the year overall.
Yeah, see, my manager of the year is going to be Liam Manning at MK Dons. I think not only to get them so high, but the football he's been making them play. He's only 36 years old as well. He's a young manager with a lot of potential. And Russell Martin obviously was there last season, and he never even got them anywhere near the playoffs, and he then got a job at Swansea. So if that's the case, Liam Manning should be getting job offers as well from the higher leagues, which he probably is at this moment in time. But I'd say Liam Manning, I think for me, he's an obvious shout manager of the year. But yeah, I mean, there's plenty who could be up there. But for me, the one that stands out is definitely Liam Manning. And now for your player of the year, please.
Player of the year, I'm sticking with Liam Manning's team. I'm going to say Scott Twine. I think he's been absolutely brilliantly written this year. You touched on him a bit earlier in the show, and he's still, I think he's 21, I think 22. He's really young still. He's got a whole future ahead of him. He really looks like a player that could go far in football. And, I think MK Dons are lucky to have him. The way he passes the ball and scores he always seems to score. And seen him twice play this year. He tore Cambridge to shreds at Stadium MK at the start of the season. And we kind of kept a bit quiet at the Abbey. But I think overall, such a very, very young player and such a high future ahead of him. So he's going to be my player of the year.
Yeah, now I am going to go with, I was going to go with Twine myself, actually, but now you've said that, I might change. I'm actually going to go with Cole Stockton from Morecambe. I think that to keep, he's basically kept them in the division on his own, in my opinion. I think that the fact that he scored so many goals take away his goals, and I actually think they would have been relegated. Well, they definitely would have been relegated. You can say Morecambe, so I'd absolutely go with him. I think he's had a fantastic season. So yeah, I'm going to say Cole Stockton for my player of the year. I think overall his goal scoring instincts have been brilliant, and yeah, I think he single-handedly kept Morecambe up. So yeah, I'm going to go with him. And finally, we're going to speak about the playoffs. So first game, obviously, won't go on the games, obviously, predict every game, but we'll predict who we think is going to win. So who are you going for out of MK Dons and Wickham? Who do you think is going to win that?
I'm stuck between two because on one hand, you've got the really good informed MK Dons and a team that have done really well this year. Good, like you said, good manager. They've got a very good young squad. But then you've also got Wickham who've done it before to find the odds of going into the championship and going through the playoffs as well. I'm going to say Wickham purely because I think they've done it before. They've had the experience of going through a playoffs and going through the whole, ups and downs of it all. So Wickham I beat to MK Dons.
Yeah, it's a really tough one. It's a because Wickham have got the experience from a couple of years ago, but MK Dons are in really good form and they've been so exciting. And I think out of the four, they definitely deserve to go up because obviously they finished highest. I'm going to go with an MK Dons win, narrow MK Dons win. I think it'll be by a goal, but yeah, I'm going to say MK Dons will just shade that one. And then, Sunderland Sheffield Wednesday. I mean, what a game that's going to be in terms of League One playoffs. In terms of stature, it's one of the biggest League One playoffs you can get. Who are you tipping there?
I'm going to say Sheffield. I think they've been the much more consistent team over the year. I think, like I said earlier, I think another season League One for Sunderland with the young squad they've got, a good start. They could definitely, be in automatics next year. I think that's something I'd want. I think would help them more as a club going forward. I think Sheffield, they've got such a good squad overall, more consistent over the year. I think it does help overall. So I think Sheffield versus Wickham's going to be my playoff final.
Yeah, I'm going to go Sheffield Wednesday as well. I agree with you on that one. I think that they've just got a bit more momentum. They're a bit more exciting to watch at the moment, and I think they're taking the form in. So I'm going to go with Sheffield Wednesday, and I'm going to go MK Dons Sheffield Wednesday as the final. And obviously, that's your final. Of course, Wickham Sheffield Wednesday. Who are you predicted to win and go up to the championship?
Oh God! On one hand, you've got the team that the bigger club in Sheffield, and then you've got Wickham who have done it before against a big team and really just been a very consistent team. And overall, I'm going to say Sheffield to win the playoffs overall. I think they've got the momentum, they've got the stature, they've got the players. I think Wickham just going to miss out on it, but they're going to give it a good go. I could change my mind 3 times before we finish this podcast tonight that they're going to win it. So I mean,
yeah. Sorry, Carl, I just froze a little bit then, but yeah, it's okay then. I'm gonna go. Obviously, who's your prediction? So you froze a little bit before you answered. So
that's like Sheffield to win the playoffs.
Sheffield, okay, brilliant. So MK Dons. I'm going to go MK Dons to win. I think it'll be a really good final. I'm going to go MK Dons to win. And I think it'll be a very, very close game. But I'm going to shade it with MK Dons, maybe a 2-1 win. But it's a lottery, to be honest with you. That's going to be a great thing for me. I know they finished 3rd and 4th, but I think that deserves to be the final. So I'm going to say MK Dons to just do it and go up. But you never know. But I'm going to say MK Dons. And that's it for our League One predictions for the season. So, League One review and then predictions for the season. So, for the playoffs, sorry. So, yeah, thank you very much for joining me. Anyway, Callum, it's been just over an hour. It's been a eventful one, but a very good season. And final question, Callum, what's your grade for League One overall this season? Oh, sorry, did it freeze then?
Yeah, it just froze us for a second. We're all good now, though.
No worries. Yeah, I was going to say, what's your overall grade for League One this season as a division?
I'm going to give it a A-. I think overall it's been a really good season. Some good relegation fights. It's gone down to the final day for playoffs, promotions, and title. You've got very good surprises. I'm a bit biased because Cambridge are now for second season of League One, and I'm looking forward to that for next year and some new grounds. Hopefully, go to Peterborough coming down for the first time in 20 years. We've got them as a double derby. That's going to be interesting, to say the league's going home away to that. But I think overall, I'm looking forward to next season already. League One's such a diverse league, and one hand you go to Accrington away, next week you're at Sunderland away with 30,000 people. It's such a wonderful league to be in, and I think it's just given the excitement that I expected going into the year.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with. I think I'm going to go with an A. I think it's been a very, very good season. I think next season, for me, next season is set up to be another classic. I mean, Derby, the big ones coming down. Let's be honest, Derby are going to be, and I know they're in a bit of a state, but seeing their name in the division, I think with a lot of teams in incentive, you got the clubs like Derby, one of Sheffield Wednesday and Sunderland, if not both, will still be there. You got obviously the likes of Portsmouth. You got so many big clubs, Ipswich as well in the division. And even coming up, the likes of Forest Green Rovers. I mean, offense to Forest Green, but I don't really in this division. It's going to look very weird seeing them. Interesting to see how they get on, obviously, and they obviously reignite their rivalry with Cheltenham as well. Exeter have came up for the first time in many years. A big congrats. They're very happy for them with all they've been through in League Two over the last few years, and we'll do our League Two review, of course, next week as well, Callum, which I cannot wait for. And so yeah, I think it's been an A. It's been a very good season. It's can't wait for that. But yeah, that sends a wrap on our League One predictions anyway, League One review, sorry, and then of course prediction for the playoffs, and we'll have to go back to that and see how we do, Callum. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me anyway, and also congratulations to Bournemouth, who've just been promoted to the Premier League again after beating Nottingham Forest 1-0. So congratulations, Bournemouth, and yes, we will see you all soon anyway. Thank you very much all for joining me.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate it.